Mentis. Got all excited about doing LinkedIn Lives, and I totally spaced it last week. Had a lot going on. Had a webinar. I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. And if you're interested in talking to me about your team, if you find something here interesting, you can go to scheduleacallwithcaskey.com or billcaskey.com. But the purpose of this is community service. That's the purpose of this, not to pitch things. It's to share with you some things that I have noticed. And I noticed it in our webinar last week. And I typically, when someone registers for one of our classes, and we've got some coming up too, and I'll be sharing with you some of those dates. I usually ask them a question, like, what's the biggest challenge right now? You know, the last one we did was on the fundamentals. I think the fundamentals have all changed of selling, and some of you will disagree with that. That's fine. But I'm seeing the new fundamentals kind of come in and emerge and take over, and they're very different than the old ones. And when I ask the question of, I can't even hear myself in here. When I ask the question of prospects or attendees, I say, what's the biggest problem you have? 90% of the problems are yesterday's problems. There are things like, we're not generating enough leads, we're making cold calls and people aren't answering the phone anymore, or our pipeline is empty, or we can't get to the right person inside the company. And I've got a list of these here. But whenever I look at the list of those things, and I really do believe that they have those issues. But the problem is that those are yesterday's problems. And if you bring me yesterday's problems or today's problems and try to solve them with yesterday's strategy, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so we've got to be modern. We've got to modernize our approach of what are the problems of today that we can solve with today's technology and today's issue. I had a meeting here a couple weeks ago with a company. We've got 25 salespeople, 2 sales managers. I was talking with the CEO, the founder, and they were saying that we're watching our close rates go down. We're watching our lead generation go down. Nothing is working like it used to. And so they're having to pump more money into ads or into networking events, and they're pumping a lot of money, and we're still not closing a high percentage of sales. Their closing rate's 12%. Well, if you got a problem like that, you have to attach today's strategies to it. So let me go through 5 of these that I see all the time, and it's kind of like, I use the example of the food pyramid. We used to take the food pyramid that the government told us back in the 60s was really the best thing for us, and this is how you need to stay healthy. And we looked at that right up on a side of the, government saying smoking is okay, and them allowing the tobacco companies to say, smoking really is good for your health. It's not bad for your health, it's good for your health. And so all these things we were told were not true. I don't know if they were lies or not, but we have adapted our beliefs over the years to say, wait a minute, what I was told about that, just not true anymore. And I think it's the same thing in sales and business, is the way we were taught to do things is so out of touch with how things are done on the buyer's side today. Forget about the seller side. If you're trying to sell to someone the way people bought 5 years ago or further back, you're kidding yourself. It's just not the way it's done today. And so I came up with 5 things. Number 1, this idea of differentiation. How do we differentiate ourselves? Well, the old way was, we told people how we were different. And we proved it to them. We talked about all of our people and all the education of our people and all the great things we've done and how fast our website is and how easy our website navigation is. That's how we differentiated ourselves. Really? That's how you can't do that today. Everybody's good today. Nobody's in your marketplace that's not already pretty good. They may not be better than you, but they're pretty good. So now how are you going to do it? When everybody's saying the same thing out there, these are people talking, chirping, yapping. How are you going to do it now? Well, you've got to bring today's modern strategy to that problem. And the modern strategy, I believe, will help that, is there's one thing that differentiates you from everybody else. One thing. You know what it is? It's your people. It's you. If you're a frontline performer, it's you. If you're a CEO, it's your people. Why, you CEOs, why are you so reluctant to get your people out there on social media, shooting videos, creating content, building their personal brand that will help the company? Why are you so afraid of that? You do know that your competitors are doing it, don't you? You do know that everyone in the marketplace eventually will have their own personal brand. Why are you so reluctant? Why do you keep people in a cubicle making cold calls all day when the fact is they should be shooting video, bringing value to their prospects, putting it on LinkedIn, putting it across socials, and making the phone ring? Why are you so opposed to that? I don't get it. And I know you are because I talk to you. And why are you sales professionals so opposed to that? The very differentiator that you have is your personality, it's your voice, it's your experience, your wisdom, your talent. I've been through all that with you. Why do you still not do it? Why are you afraid? Are you afraid of the camera? Camera's not going to hurt you. Are you afraid of the microphone? No, it's pretty harmless, actually. It's got a little soft thing on it, I guess. My granddaughter loves this soft thing. She gets right up and she tries to eat it. So that's not good. So if you ever see a chunk taken out of that, it's not me. So why are you so concerned and afraid of that? Well, it's because it's a new orthodoxy. It's a very new way to solve old problems. And whenever we have new ways to solve old problems, we get very nervous about it because it's almost like quicksand. We're not quicksand, an earthquake underneath our feet. It's taken us by surprise, and we're not really sure what to do with it. We can't get our footing or our grounding. But that's one way to differentiate yourself, is have your people out there telling their personal stories, telling their stories about why they're in the business, letting them be the voice and name of the brand. Yes, you as a CEO, you need to do it too. And you VPs of sales managers, if you're trying to get your people to do this and you're not doing it, good luck. Ain't going to happen. You're not going to do it. Be the change you want to see with your team. All right, number 2. See, I told you the meetings would start early. They would start early today. Calling at a high level. That's always a problem. How do we get to the decision maker? The decision maker. That mystic fabrication of a person out there, the decision maker. We've got to get to them. Who's going to get to them? Well, you get to the decision maker by understanding the pains and plights and dilemmas of the decision maker. And most of you don't do that. Most of you talk about company pain. You know, we solve the problem for companies when they want to grow their business or build profitability or build better systems. That game is over. That ship has sailed. You know why? Because companies don't have pain. Companies don't experience pain. The people who run the companies experience pain. And so if you want to call at a higher level, you have to become obsessed with the problems your individual cohort has at that company. If you're calling on VP of sales, for example, you have to be obsessed about what the VP of sales cares about today. I was in a program the other day and we did an exercise where I said, okay, what's the biggest problem you solve for the person that you're solving it for? So name the avatar. Let's just say it's VPs of sales. And what's the problem you solve for them? Well, you know, I help their sales team close more business. Well, that's not a sales VP problem. That's not a personal problem for them. I mean, they'd like to see their people close more business, close a higher percentage, but how does that translate to them? Well, they make more money. Okay, so what's the problem if they don't do it? If their team doesn't close more sales, what's the problem then? Well, they're stuck. They're under earning. Their income is not where it needs to be. Okay, fine. What does that person say about that? What would be the verbatims? And you can go through this exercise too with your team. Is what's the problem and what's the verbatim? What's the expression of that problem? If you don't know the expression of that problem, how are you going to create content that helps the customer know that you have some kind of a solution for them, because they don't even think you understand it? So if I go on, video and say, hey, I can help you grow your business, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. Everybody says that. I got to be a lot more specific, a lot more technical. I have to be explicit with my description of the kinds of problems I solve, and you do too. And that will help you call at the right level, because suddenly you will be earning that call at the right level because of how you're speaking and the kinds of problems you solve and how you communicate those problems. So if you're trying to get to the CEO of a company, don't rely on a purchasing manager to get them in the room. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. You have to go directly to the CEO by talking about CEO things, and most of you don't do that. Okay, number 3, I'm just going to do 4. Well, I'll do 5. Number 3, long selling cycles. I get this a lot. People say, my selling cycle is all stretched out, and it used to be that we'd close deals in 60 days, and now it's 120. And a lot of times we don't even get the deal then. We get shut out or we get outsold. And so long selling cycles are a problem. And the deal on long selling cycles, the new way to look at them is these are just decision cycles. These are decision cycles that your customer takes time to work through. So we've got to understand the concept of decision psychology. I talked about this a little bit in the webinar. If you don't care about psychology, you know what? If I were to recommend a series of books to you to learn how to be better at your craft, and I'm assuming your craft is marketing and sales and leadership, it would all be psychology books. That's all we would have on our list. In fact, I might do that someday, is just look at all my books on my bookshelf and pick out the ones on psychology that I found very helpful. But if you're not reading books on if you're reading books on, trends and AI, that's fine. You need to know AI. But you also need to know psychology because human beings are making the decisions that have your future in them. So if you're calling on a chief executive HR person or a CEO, you got to understand how people make decisions. Decision psychology. I'm actually probably going to write a little bit, maybe not a book, but a booklet on that. Because I don't think we understand that well enough. And so here we are pitching and presenting and taking all these things and dumping them on the prospect's desk metaphorically. And we don't even know how they decide. How does a human decide? And then how does that person decide? And if we can't figure that out, we're not going to be able to fix the long selling cycles. So one option here is to communicate the process that you will take them through and why it's of benefit to them. You want people to follow your sales process, but you haven't convinced them or persuaded them that you have a process that's worth following. Once you do, I think the selling cycle shortens. Number 4, I'll do this finally, last one, discounting. How do we stop discounting? The customer gets down to the end and they want us to shave off a few percentages or discount. And I think discounting comes because you haven't proven your value. So how are you proving your value today? Just by showing up with a proposal? Is that how you prove your value? Or is there another way to do it? I think digital technology allows us to prove our value at a whole new level. Here's an example. I've got a client, one of my programs, high achiever programs, named Ken, and he sells, he's a broker for CPA and law practices, mostly CPAs. And he's creating a course for CPA owners who are considering selling their practice in the next year. What they need to do, how they need to look at their business, what they need to do with their records. Obviously, CPAs probably have pretty good record keeping, I would imagine. But he has like 7 or 8 things, and he's creating a very nice course for getting ready to sell your business. Now, he's going to sell it, but even if he gave it away in 1,000 CPA firms in the Northwest and West Pacific Coast and Mountain, took it, how many of those do you think would become prospects for him to broker it? Probably a lot. So he's getting out ahead of this instead of just making cold calls and saying, hey, you're ready to sell your practice, ready to sell your practice, ready to buy a practice, ready to buy. No, he's actually taking a digital approach and saying that he is bringing value before he brings value, before they buy. He's bringing value to that CPA firm, and then at some point they're going to have a discussion about price, and they're not going to, trying to swindle him down on fees at all. He's very fair. He takes the fee discussion totally out of it. So are you creating content or creating any kind of value that your customer can participate in before you start to ask them for money? So those are four things. My last one was not enough leads. That we don't have enough time to do that. We'll do that one on another one. But don't bring me yesterday's problems. Bring me today's problems, and let's find today's solutions for them. If you want to learn more about how I can help do that in your company, we're pretty good at it. There's probably not too many things you're going to say to me or ask me about that I haven't addressed at some point. They may have a little different color and flavor to them, but generally a lot of the problems are the same. I'm happy to jump on a call with you if you're inclined. If you're not, that's cool. Keep tuning in here, and I'll see you next time.